Imagine living in a world where safety is an illusion, where the darkest parts of human nature are not hidden in fiction, but recorded in history. Tonight, I will take you back to one of the most disturbing episodes of our past, an event so cruel and haunting that it feels almost impossible to believe. This is the story of the doomed village of Unit 731, a dark chapter of World War II that was kept hidden from the public for decades. In the 1930s, while most of the world was preparing for war, Japan secretly built what looked like a medical research center in the quiet region of Harbin, China. On the outside, it seemed like just another scientific facility, but inside, it became the headquarters of Unit 731, a covert program led by General Shiro Ishii. Officially, the unit's mission was disease prevention. Unofficially, it was something far more sinister. Behind those gates, thousands of men, women, and even children were imprisoned. The Japanese military referred to them coldly as logs, as if they weren't human beings at all. And what followed was not medical research. It was torture disguised as science. Prisoners were exposed to extreme cold until their limbs froze solid. Scientists would then pour hot water over the flesh, only to repeat the process again and again, studying how frostbite destroyed the body. Some victims had their organs removed while still alive without anesthesia, just so researchers could observe the human body's reaction to slow death. Others were deliberately infected with deadly diseases like plague, cholera, and anthrax. Entire villages near the facility were poisoned with contaminated food and water, spreading epidemics that killed thousands. The victims weren't soldiers, but ordinary civilians, farmers, villagers, mothers, and children who had no chance of fighting back. What makes this story even darker is not just the cruelty, but the silence that followed. When the war ended in 1945, the world learned about Nazi war crimes at Nuremberg. But Unit 731 was different. Instead of facing justice, many of the scientists were granted immunity by the United States in exchange for their research data. In other words, the torture of thousands was swept under the rug because the information was considered valuable during the Cold War. General Shiro Ishii, the mastermind behind these horrors, lived a quiet life after the war. He was never punished. He died peacefully in his home in 1959. Meanwhile, the survivors of Unit 731, those who managed to escape, were left with memories too painful to put into words. Families who lost loved ones never saw justice. For decades, the Japanese government denied that Unit 731 even existed. Think about that for a moment. A facility where some of the most disturbing human experiments in history took place. Hidden under layers of secrecy, denied by those in power and forgotten by most of the world. It wasn't until the 1980s and 1990s that survivors and historians began to uncover the truth. Former workers came forward, confessing what they had seen. Old photographs surfaced. Evidence that had been buried for years was finally revealed. And with it came a chilling realization. This was not the story of monsters, but of ordinary men who chose to commit monstrous acts. The legacy of Unit 731 is disturbing because it forces us to ask difficult questions. How far will people go when ordered to obey authority? How much cruelty can be justified in the name of science, or war, or progress? And perhaps most haunting of all, how many other dark chapters in history remain hidden, waiting to be uncovered? When we talk about disturbing stories, this is not just a tale of horror. It's a reminder of what humanity is capable of when morality is stripped away. It is proof that the most chilling nightmares don't come from ghost stories or folklore. They come from our own history, carved into the lives of real people who suffered and died in silence. And so, the story of Unit 731 stands as one of history's darkest secrets, a disturbing reminder that sometimes the scariest monsters wear human faces, and that justice is not always delivered, even when it is deserved. The next time someone tells you that history is boring, remember this. Buried in the past are stories so disturbing, so horrific, that they rival any horror movie you've ever seen. And unlike fiction, these events truly happened. This is why we must remember them. Not to spread fear, but to keep the truth alive. Because forgetting would mean allowing the same darkness to rise again. Closing. That was the disturbing story of Unit 731, a dark history that still casts its shadow today. If you want more true disturbing stories from history, events that are rarely told but never forgotten, stay tuned, because the past is filled with horrors we are only just beginning to uncover.